operating chilled water supply. Okay, so when we click on this, right, it's going to bring us to graphical view. Okay, so because it's not a live system, so let's look at the previous data that we have. Okay, so I went to 1 month view, so you can actually select the graphical view. How long do you want to actually see this data? Okay, so you can choose between a day or week or month or a year. Okay, or you can actually have a range. You have a certain specific date you want to see. Okay, you can also choose specific dates. This is more for like diagnostic purposes. Okay, when you have something that happened, you want to see in terms of graphical view at a certain time, day, then you will use this feature. Okay, so when you look at this, right, can I also zoom in? Okay, you just have to hold your cursor on your left of the mouse. Okay, you just drag, then you can zoom in. Okay, so anytime you don't want to see, you can actually reset the zoom as well. So you can actually just zoom in until very detailed so that you can actually see the time spent. Okay, so you can see, right, this data is actually logged every 15 minutes. So every point that you see this 8:45, the next one you see at 9, then 9:15, and you have a 9:30, 9:45. So this point, right, called building chilled water supply, okay, is actually trended at every 15 minutes interval. So that is the reason why you only see in terms of stats of 15-minute interval. Okay, so it will show you the timestamp and also the reading as well. So you see 6.54, 6.51. Okay, so that's your graphical view. Okay, so you can also export this out if you want to export this in your graphical view. Then you save these as either SVG, PNG, or JPEG. Okay, so if you want to see these in your tabular view, then you actually use this export as a XLS or CSV. Okay, so you can also hide the legends if you don't need to lah. Okay, so that's basically your data logging. Okay, so when we go back to data log itself, right, okay, you can actually you can actually view your data log definition. Okay, so this is how it's actually being defined. So when the programmer actually did this trend log, right, okay, it started from this date. It start collection from this date. Okay, so it's actually going to collect 3 months worth of data. Okay, so it's a first in first out operation, FIFO. Okay, first in first out. So it will collect and store only 3 months worth of data. Okay, so I'm not going to have a lot of data because SE is not capable of storing indefinitely. Okay, that's not how you want to use your SE. So it's actually going to store at 3 months because the collection interval is only 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes I have one data. So one day I don't really have a lot because 15 minutes one data, right, which means 1 hour I only have 4 datas, right? So over 24 hours it's only 96 datas. Okay, so 1 month if I have 30 days, that will be 2,880. Okay, so you store 3 months, it will be 8,640 data that you have, data entries. Okay, it's not a lot compared to 1 minute interval. If you have 1 minute interval, 1 hour is already 60 points already. So if you times by 1 day, it's 1,400. If you multiply by 30 days, just 1 month worth of data at every 1 minute interval, you're going to have 43,200 number of data entries being stored. So can you imagine 1 point you already have this much? If we have actually 100 points in your system, you are already logging 4.3 million worth of data. Okay, so that is a lot of points. So it's going to overload your SE. So for points whereby we actually collect data log in intervals of 1 minute, right, we do not recommend SE to store it for more than 7 days. So in Singapore, we are more conservative. Usually we only store 1 minute data worth of points, right, to be 3 days or 5 days. Not maximum is 7 days. We don't go beyond that because we have experiences with the response time and the reliability of the SE. Yeah, so we actually cap it. So it's either 3, 5, or 7 days if we were to store the chiller plant data at every 1 minute interval. Because for Singapore sites, right, because of BCA and NEA's requirement, we need to submit the data. So 1 minute interval is essential for us, okay, for chiller plant. But air site, right, 15 minutes of data collection is actually more than sufficient for air site because you do not really experience a spike or a sudden change so frequently. So for SI equipments like FCU and AHU, 15 minutes is more than enough. Okay, so you can actually set it at 15 minutes. Unless the users actually have requirement to do it at 10 minutes or whatever, then you set accordingly. Okay, so at any one time, right, I want to change this collection interval. It's also possible. Just go to check on the point that you want, then you go to edit collection interval. So you can always amend to have this data trended at every 10 minutes. Okay, you can always change this later on. So once you do this, right, then every 10 minutes later, it's going to collect the data. Okay, so this is the number of samples it has collected. So that's why you see these samples. Okay, so data log is created by who is also actually being logged. So all this is actually done by us. Then you will see as train. So if you have VAV boxes, okay, VAV boxes, when you install it, right, they will also automatically trend some points. Okay, so those will be default points that the VAV itself will trend. Okay, so this is basically your data logging. Okay, so I think it's quite straightforward, but